I didn't open my mother's message that night. I saw the notification. I even read the first few words on the lock screen. And for some reason, I decided it could wait. I didn't know that small decision would quietly change the way I think about people. Forever. It was a Tuesday evening, and like most Tuesdays, I was still at the office long after everyone else had left. Nothing dramatic, just spreadsheets, emails, and that familiar pressure of trying to stay ahead in a job where falling behind feels like failure. I worked in a small marketing firm in Chicago. Nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills and gave me the illusion that I was building something important. My phone buzzed around 9:12 p.m. I remember the exact time because the office was silent, and that small vibration echoed louder than usual on the empty desk. I glanced down. Mom. The message preview showed only a few words. "Hey, are you free for a minute?" I stared at it for a second. My first thought was simple. She probably just wants to talk. My mother liked to call unexpectedly, sometimes to tell me about a neighbor, sometimes to ask if I'd eaten dinner, sometimes for no real reason at all. And normally I answered. But that night my inbox was full. A deadline was hanging over my head, and my brain was locked into that familiar work tunnel where everything outside the screen feels like a distraction. I remember thinking, I'll reply in a bit. So I flipped the phone over and kept working. About 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. Another message from her. I glanced quickly. "Just wanted to hear your voice." I smiled a little. Not because it was funny, but because it was such a typical message from her. My mom had always been that kind of person, someone who believed hearing a voice mattered more than sending texts. But again, I told myself the same thing. I'll call when I finish this. That was the plan. Finish the report, send the emails, then call. Simple, logical, responsible. Except work has this strange way of stretching time without you noticing. One task turns into another, one email leads to 5 more, and before you realize it, an hour disappears. By the time I looked at my phone again, it was 10:46 p.m. There were no new messages, just the 2 from earlier. For a moment, I considered calling, but then another thought appeared. It's late, she's probably asleep. So I put my phone in my pocket, shut down my computer, and left the office. The next morning started like any other. Coffee, commute, traffic that moves slower than human patience. I checked my phone while waiting at a red light. No new messages from Mom. That wasn't unusual. Sometimes she texted, sometimes I did. I told myself I'd call her that evening. But around 11:30 a.m., my phone rang. It was my aunt, my mom's sister. That alone felt strange. She almost never called me directly. I answered. Her voice sounded tight, careful. "Hey, where are you right now?" "At work," I said. "Why?" There was a pause. Then she said something I still remember word for word. "Your mom had a stroke early this morning." For a second, the words didn't make sense. Not emotionally, logically. Like hearing a sentence in a language you almost understand, but not completely. "What do you mean?" I asked. "She collapsed around 2 a.m. The neighbor found her." My mind started connecting dots too late. The messages, the timing. "Are you free for a minute?" "Just wanted to hear your voice." I felt something heavy drop inside my chest. "Is she okay?" "She's in the hospital," my aunt said softly. "They're not sure yet." I drove to the hospital that afternoon. The whole drive felt unreal. Traffic lights changed, cars moved, people crossed streets, but my mind was stuck replaying those 2 messages over and over. Not dramatically, just quietly, like a loop that refused to stop. When I reached the hospital room, my mom was asleep. Machines beeped softly around her bed. She looked smaller than I remembered, fragile. The doctor explained the situation calmly. The stroke had affected parts of her speech and movement. Recovery was possible, but uncertain. I nodded while he talked, but my attention kept drifting back to something painfully simple.
She had tried to reach me twice, and I had seen both messages. For the next few days, I spent most of my time at the hospital, sitting beside the bed, watching the machines, listening to nurses move quietly through the halls. There's something about hospitals that slows your thinking down. Everything becomes quieter, more honest. One afternoon, while my mom was still asleep, I opened our text conversation again. I scrolled up through months of messages, photos she had sent, random questions, small updates about her garden, reminders to wear a jacket when it got cold, things I had answered quickly, things I had ignored. That's when I noticed something strange. Her last two messages weren't the only ones I'd left unanswered. There were more, small ones, harmless ones, moments when I had chosen something else first: work, meetings, being busy. And none of those decisions had felt important at the time. A few days later, my mom woke up enough for a short conversation. Her speech was slower, careful, but she recognized me. When I asked her if she remembered texting me that night, she nodded slightly. "I wanted to talk," she said. Her voice was quiet but steady. "About what?" I asked. She thought for a moment. Then she smiled gently. "Nothing big. Just that. Nothing big." She hadn't been calling because something dramatic was happening. She just wanted to hear her son's voice. That realization stayed with me long after she fell asleep again. I had spent years organizing my life around what felt urgent: deadlines, projects, meetings. But the truth is, most of those things disappear the moment the day ends. The emails get buried, the reports get replaced, the pressure moves on to something else. Yet somehow, the quiet human moments, the ones that actually matter, are the ones we delay. We assume there's always another chance, another evening, another call, another message we can answer later. My mom eventually recovered enough to go home. Her speech improved slowly, her walking too. Life didn't return to exactly how it was before, but something inside me had shifted. Not dramatically, not overnight, just quietly. These days, when my phone buzzes and I see someone I care about, I pause before deciding it could wait, because I've learned something uncomfortable about human psychology. We often treat the people who love us the most as the safest ones to postpone. We assume they'll always be there tomorrow, and most of the time they are, until one day they're not. Sometimes I still look at those last two messages from that night. "Hey, are you free for a minute? Just wanted to hear your voice." They weren't dramatic, they weren't urgent, but they carried something I didn't recognize at the time. A moment, a simple opportunity to be present. And the strange thing about moments like that is you rarely realize their importance while they're happening, only afterwards, when the silence between messages becomes heavier than the messages themselves. So now, whenever I see a notification from someone that matters, I ask myself a small question before I ignore it. Not, "Am I busy?" but something much more honest. If this moment never repeats, will I wish I answered?